Great to see you. I want to introduce these friends of mine I have with me. Of course, Tyler Grubbs and my great friend, and I'm going to call him a colleague, Alan Brown. It's been a few years since we've been together, hasn't it been?
Mhm. Oh yeah, yep.
Yeah, it has been. But I wanted to bring you on because um, we've always shared these great thoughts, these things that we have upon our mind. I can still remember when we were in class, we would have some great discussions. But I remember contacting you, and you ignited on the one question I think I asked about. It was about the passion, wasn't it? It was about what you're seeing in life that's really important and what you would offer from a philosophical standpoint. I wanted to offer some time and get into a dialogue about that because that's really important. Um, I know I've been thinking, even from last week. I know that Tyler and I were talking about that idea about the idea of life being a memento mori, an idea that we keep within ourselves that one day it's the last day. And Socrates said he's the one that comes up with philosophy as a way of thinking about that, or you keep that constantly in your mind. And then it was Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher, who made that really famous. And so in some ways that's been my concentration. It's not the reason I have you on, Alan, but I know that talking before we started recording, we want to get into a story of how we're coming to this, and I want to turn it over to you and some of your thoughts. So if you would lead in with that, why that's important, and what you're wishing to share today from your own perspective, which I know is very valuable for everybody that is listening.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's good to see you guys as well. It has been a minute. It's been a little
Yeah.
while. But there's man, that my brain goes so many different directions with this
Mhm.
different idea. But I think everyone wants to leave behind something. Everyone wants to, I hate to say it so shortly, but wants to matter. They want to leave a mark and
Yes.
leave something behind
Mhm.
on this earth. And sadly, I think that's eventually, it could be thousands and thousands and thousands of years, but we're all going to be forgotten. And it's kind of terrifying in a way, but it's also kind of invigorating and also kind of like powerful, because this is all going to be gone one day. And that you could take that and say, man, that's so sad. But then you could take that and say, let's do everything there possibly is to offer. Let's explore and everything. And let's not hide behind this idea that, like, oh, well, it doesn't even matter because it's all going to be gone. Like
Mm.
that should be the spark. We got to flip
Mm.
that. If we reverse engineer that and say, holy crap, everything's going to be gone. Let's go. Let's do it. Let's do everything. You start to kind of reach like the next like
That's so
level of
good.
something.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I mean, I don't want to interrupt you. I'm just thinking that is such a fantastic thought on that. That that because it could almost bring on a nihilistic viewpoint, like it's all going to end anyway, not only personally, but like Bertrand Russell, I think, wrote one time. I don't really want to give him credit if he didn't write it, but there was one philosopher who wrote that it all ends not with a bang, but a whimper. And I hated that line, and I've hated that line for so very long. Why do you live? I don't want to live a life that I'm going to end up in a whimper. I want to go out with a bang, so to speak. But keep on talking, because my mind is racing with that, and I think that is so good. So keep going with that thought.
I think in the past year, I've gained so many. different perspectives because of the things that I went through being in the hospital. And obviously COVID was a serious thing all around the world. And there were so many different things that COVID brought on that I don't even think people even understood at the time. And that's where I kind of step in was when I had COVID last January, just over a year ago. When I had COVID itself, it wasn't that bad. It was like cold. A few weeks go by, I go back to work, I'm feeling okay. Then about a month later, I go to an urgent care because my lymph node in the side of my neck was super swollen. I was really nauseous. I was throwing up, all these things. And I won't give the super 48-hour detailed story of all that, but just fast forward, I end up getting put on a ventilator. I get life flighted to Morgantown, West Virginia, where I get put on this life support called ECMO. For me, it was a pretty intense thing, especially last year. And I'm telling you, when you're faced with mortality, you learn a lot about yourself, about other people. And I came out of that situation from being on a ventilator to being on life support with a whole new perspective. And that kind of goes and ties into what I was saying was like, this is all going to be over. Why am I not going 1,000 miles per hour in everything that I want to do? I mean, we get in our way so much. We get in our own way. It's not even other people's fault necessarily. Obviously, there's other layers to that with finances and everything. But anyone who's able to watch this, is able to pay a cell phone bill or have a phone or internet access. Like we're getting in our own way so much in our lives. And I can tell you that all I wanted was more time. I didn't want more things. I didn't want more physical things. I wanted time. And I'd always struggled with my mental health, and I'll be very honest with you guys. I had struggled a lot, and I've tried to take my life several times. Luckily, I've been in therapy, and luckily, I've been on medicine, and really got my mental health straightened up. But it's almost like God or whoever was just saying, "You don't really want to die." And I'm going to take you about as close as you can. And then we're going to pull you back from that. And I want you to use this and help people. So it's been a pretty insane journey from all that because it got national attention. It obviously I'm a musician as well. So it's been part of the story on stage and like countless press interviews from the album and all these different things.
Really? That's
I mean,
it's been wild. On that. I want to fill in some of the gaps. You said it received national attention. Was that through your work as an artist that people were in on the story?
It kind of bled into music. I think musically I'm more of like a regional artist, but that what I had was called MIS. And if you've never heard of that, is because it was this basically an intense reaction to the antibodies from your immune system that COVID made. And it caused quadruple organ failure. And at the time, 30 people in the entire country, 30 had that from COVID. And I was one of 30, and not all of those people survived. And so it's been put in so many different medical journals all over the place. And a healthy 30-year-old guy was put on life support from post-COVID reaction. So, because again, COVID itself wasn't that bad for me. When I actually was infected with COVID, it was a month later.
So it was a month after the COVID symptoms sort of subsided that you went into, I mean, I hate to say this, almost a meltdown from the reaction that your body was taking on the COVID itself. It was the aftershock.
Exactly.
That is tremendous story. I'm sorry about that, but that has given you such, and I can even hear it in your voice and in your clarity of mission. It's given you a mission. It's given you, I don't know, a new calling, a reverberation of the calling that you've originally had, not only as an artist, but as this great thinker. I mean, I remember one line you gave, and it's been so many years ago. Well, I wouldn't say so many years ago because it hasn't been, but several years ago. And I remember you saying at one class, you said, "Man, I love this class," because it was helping you to think about some issues and draw out some greater and deeper philosophical thoughts about life, and now you're coming back around with this great understanding of life, and here you are with this new message, and that's something brilliant. That is really remarkable. So keep
You,
talking about what you.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I interrupted you on the medical thought, but
You're okay. Like
but
the
keep.
the
Yeah.
the medical side is pretty insane and fascinating, and it was crazy to wake up because I really wasn't supposed to. I was it was crazy to see all of that, and I'm hooked up to a machine and I can't move a muscle because I have every freaking thing attached to me, giving me different whatever and fluids and medications and whatever this stuff is. And um, they were slowly letting my body take control again because my body was being kept alive by machines. It was pumping my heart for me. It was pumping everything for me. And, we talked about kind of, people talk about seeing like a white light, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whenever they're dying or whatever. And that's a completely real thing. I can remember it plain as day. I was in a completely infinite white space, as far as I could see, left, right, backs, and whatever, completely infinitely white. And I hate to call it just like a ball of energy, but there was something that contrasted against the white of that I was seeing. I wasn't touching the ground. I was just in an infinite white space. And there was like a little whatever that was on my left side of my chest, on my heart side. And it started really, really, really close to me. And then I slowly, slowly, slowly watched it go way, way off in the distance. And it was like I acknowledged that I was dying. I could sense that, and that wherever I was, I could sense that. And the next thing I know, I'm talking to people. There are 18 different doctors. I don't mean nurses and assistants. I mean doctors for each part of my organ failure. Talking to me saying, "Hey, Mr. Brown, you're in Morgantown, Mountaineers." And there's videos of me talking to these doctors, still sedated and all this stuff. But again, it was like you said, kind of a reverberation of like everything I knew before, but it was just like this wake up call of like, man, you've got purpose on this life and then and in this earth. And it's like, you've talked about wanting to die before and you've tried to take your own life before. If you really want that, I'll give that to you. But you got so much to do.
This is what the energy source, call it God, call it the divine, call it what you will. That is what you heard in your soul, in your mind, that it said that we can do this if you want to. And you said, I don't want to. I want to go back. I want more time. Let me go back.
Yeah. And it felt like I question prayer a lot. I question it night and day, like wondering if praying to a God that we don't really know if it's real is doing anything. But I can tell you that it felt like the entire earth was praying and saying, we need Alan back. And I remember beautiful. I had my godparents.
Yeah, that's too good, man. That is snatching my heart. Wow. Yeah.
I had my godparents talking to me later after I got out of ICU, and they said, we had people in Africa praying for you, people in like Romania, and like literally the entire earth. You could almost
all around
feel
the world. People were all.
And so, I mean, I could go way into that, but I want to make sure that everyone is talking about everything. But it's a truly life changing thing, and just I've said this so many times that I went to speak at different schools and different events and whatever about just mental health in general. But like, my story isn't any more valuable because I'm on stage with a guitar or a mic. Like, there are people that hold so much value. Like, I know a guy that's a janitor at a church, and that's his thing. Like, that's his thing that keeps him, like, that's his passion right there. And people can look on, because of society, people look at him saying, oh, he's just a janitor. But he has no less value than any of us because I'm on stage with a mic. And like, people say, like, when I'm talking about mental health, like, you're so brave. And, it's not that. It's like, I just somehow got lucky enough to have a responsibility to be able to share it. And I think that's for everybody. Like, the world is crazy, but I think we're all responsible for this little piece of the earth that we've been given. And if we can make that better, that's really what we're supposed to do.
Such a great philosophy of life. I don't think I've ever heard a more adequate or more to the point from, or how I've heard that put, in that the philosophy of it, you've, let me put it this way, you've lived that out. That isn't like a that isn't something that we've read in a book and we sort of speculated upon. Like, it's kind of like, Socrates talks about death, and people talk about living life to the fullest. They always use that one. They always talk about living life to the fullest, whatever the fullest means. It sounds almost cliche, but talking with you and letting you express that. And I must tell everybody listening that I really did not have any idea to the depth of that. I knew that you were sick, and I too was praying for you. But
Thank you.
The context, the close contact wasn't there because of time, distance, and people's careers and callings and everything. As called men, we separate sometimes. We go off in our own separate ways and do our thing. But then there's times that the divine brings us back together, because there's a need to hear this. There's a need. There's a providence at play that is providing for someone to find some encouragement, some way of allowing their heart to heal from the words that we are saying. And you are such an ambassador for that now. It's not like I have been to the brink, not by choice, but by a sickness that almost took me, and I was given a choice to come back. The divine power gave you that choice, and you came back because the world needs you. And what a great encouraging word for everybody to understand, no matter the situation that they're facing, or you can never, the world needs you. It's like that's your meaning of life. Albert Camus, not to talk deep philosophy here, but he wrote that one, it was really I don't know whether it was really a book. I guess it was. I only have read excerpts from it, but his most powerful line is at the very front of this one paragraph. And he said, the greatest question of philosophy that philosophy deals with is suicide, because it is judging whether or not life has meaning, whether or not life is worth living. Because a lot of people think that in philosophy, all that we do is we just kind of sit around, we just talk about stuff that's unrelevant to life. And we don't. We talk about what is essential to life, because it's grappling with life. But one of the great questions that philosophy is in some ways, it's kind of put about that philosophers deal with the meaning of life, right? And so Camus says, before you can ever ask what is the meaning of life, you have to ask whether or not life has meaning. And that's what you've just answered. Life has meaning because you are here. You can make a difference. You can be a way of encouragement. You have a purpose. You have everything about you. And that is really interesting. I'm fascinated by that. I love how you've grown, and I'm not saying this in a pedagogical way. I mean this as just a person to person. When we were in class together, and you even came to the church I was pastoring a few times, right? And the way that you have deepened your life through and by this terrible situation, but it has given you, because you have embraced it, a way of living that is so, I don't know, encouraging even for me. And I don't, I mean, I love life. I don't, have an issue with finding great meaning in life, but, um, and I'm not boasting by that, because I know that so many people have that, who need that encouragement. And I don't mean to talk over that, but what I do mean to say is, even with what I would understand is a good view, like you've got this sense of your own purpose and calling. What you're saying has enriched my life in so many ways, just by listening to you on that story. I love that. I love that contribution. How have you found that you've really been able to reach people with that, or the importance of that message that you have now? How has it made a difference? Talk on that, if you would.
I kind of didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
It really was a serious thing, especially in.
I don't mean to laugh about that, but that's
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
I mean, you're kind of like, yeah, I don't, it's not like you have a choice to go on to enroll in a school to learn more about this. I mean, you're just like you're put right on the spot. Yeah.
Yeah, it was intense, and like I said, being a musical artist, it has traction, at least in the tri-state region. It was pretty wild, because I feel blessed because I have a lot of people, rooting for me all the time, not just musically, but as friends and people that just know me. I'm not trying to sound boastful either. It's just like, a lot of people recognize me generally if we're out and about, and they're like, "Oh man, you're Corduroy Brown," or "Hey Alan," or whatever. It's like constant. So there's already a baseline of being somewhat well known in our region. But then you get sick, and I remember waking up, again sometime down the road there after several days, and my phone was physically hot. Like, I could feel it in the bed next to me. It was hot because it had been going off nonstop for a week. I mean, just constantly. And I mean, even now, I'll go back through some of my messages and see where people message me occasionally. And it's been almost over a year, and I'm finding messages where people reached out. And I guess the point of that is, what I'm saying is, I didn't have a choice. There were parades for me when I got back. There were benefit concerts. There was a $30,000 GoFundMe account set up for me when I woke up, that people had donated to from all over the place. And it just, when we started doing the music promotion as well later, I mean, everything tied in, and it was like I almost couldn't run from it. And I'm glad, because that's my truth. But it's kind of weird, because I don't know that I'd go back and do all that again. But especially the almost dying part.
I understand that. I hope you wouldn't, man. I want you to be. I like you better like this. You gave everybody a scare on that. I mean, that's all right, man. I mean, I'd like you on this side better than on the other side. Let's put it that way. I'd rather you be a future than a memory. Yes, that way. I'd rather you be a future than a memory. That it humbles me in a way, listening to you, because I think so much of what I take for granted, like someone said to me one time, you should have been an attorney, or you should have done something, and I thought, no, because that was never my calling. I mean, I never thought, about, I should end this whole thing and just go to law school. Not to say that people aren't called to be attorneys. I, for one, am not. I was called, into ministry and into teaching, and that's where I'm happiest. That's where I thought, if I could ever do that. But yet, even doing it, and so happy at it. I mean, you two alone, I mean, both of you have enjoyed. I don't know. I'm speaking kind of freely there. You both have enjoyed my teaching. No, I don't mean it like that, but I meant that I have met you through that calling, and I have enjoyed that teaching moments that we have shared in the course. I mean, we wouldn't have had this conversation had I not been called, had I not followed that calling. And I take that often for granted because I was young when I was called. And hearing from you, it humbles me because you thought of even as this young, talented individual, this young man that was so gifted, thought about ending it. And yet you went through this terrible circumstance and coming out on the other side, and you humble me because you said you just wanted more time. You just wanted more time. You didn't want any stuff. I want you to go back to that if you would, because that was a line I loved and I wanted to pick back up on it. You said that the stuff didn't matter. I mean, the stuff and that going back on that's the reason that they said I should have become maybe something else. I could have made a lot more money. And I thought, that doesn't bring you happiness. It doesn't.
Right.
It doesn't at all. All this, well, you could have bought new cars, you could have been on more cruises, taken more vacations, had better homes, or had, a couple more homes, thousands more of dollars, whatever.
Yeah.
But when you're going down, you're going down. So
yeah, I mean, it's there. We got it kind of all wrong. I feel like as society, because everyone's wanting you to chase and do and have, like you said, it's, and I think maybe this is a little bit different for people who maybe have never had anything. So like they might want, cars and things that they've never had, but I've been very blessed and very fortunate to be able to have a job, have good parents and everything. So at least for me, my somewhere that I used to work, they bought me a watch. They bought me an Apple Watch, but I was working a lot of overtime. And I thought how absolutely ridiculous that idea was because I had a watch, but didn't have the time to spend. And it's like, I have to check myself all the time because it's like, why am I doing what I'm doing? Or why are we even doing what we're doing? Like, it's worth it to create memories because when I woke up, I have to go back to that where I remember, I'll be real candid with you guys. There was a girl that I dated after college. We moved in together and she ended up cheating and blah, 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 blah. And it really controlled my thoughts for about 2 years. Everything I did was, I got to make sure she sees this. And I got to make sure people know. Yeah. And it literally fueled what my actions were. And I mean, really, when I woke up, I thought about that so much. And I said, because it was still touch and go. I still had some conscious moments, whenever, because I had multiple surgeries to get the life support tubes removed and put back in and all this stuff. And you have a little bit of clarity in between all that. And I kept thinking about how much time I wasted chasing the wrong things.
There it is. Yep.
Chasing the wrong things. And it's more worth it just to chase what fuels you. It's more worth it just to it's not about with music. I've never, I'm realistic. I'm probably never going to be some millionaire rock star that everyone knows about, but I'll be damned if me not going to Jackson, Ohio, then over to Indiana, then playing in Lexington and Cincinnati and wherever, those runs on the road were the most incredible times of my life because I created memories. And that was so much worth more than anything. It's worth it to go chase your stuff that makes you happy. It's like your job is not, unless you just love your job, it's different for you because I know that you love it, but like it's not worth it to work extra hours if your wife is at home waiting for you. It's
Right.
not worth any of that.
Right. Right.
Like it just, I
It's
could,
yeah, you're yeah. I mean, we waste our time on, and I'll go ahead and be blunt here. We waste our time upon stuff and people that do not deserve a second thought because they've chosen not to be present with us in our moments of grace and glory and beauty and goodness and truth. They've chosen to go elsewhere. Yet we waste our time trying to chase them back and keep them as if, and I hate to call it a stupid move, but I think we've all been there. I mean, a lot of people have done this. I mean, we're not the only people on the planet that can ever, speak about that. But it is a wake-up call when you think of all of the time you wasted in thinking about the things and the people that did not choose you. Well, I know that things don't choose us, but I mean, the stuff does not matter, and those individuals who did not choose you do not matter. I'm not saying that they don't matter to just anybody. I'm saying we don't have enough time to be giving away our time. We don't have enough time to give away ourselves to this because it's going to end nowhere good. They're choosing to walk. Let them go. And that's the thing that you were reminded of, that you just, as you said, they bought you the Apple Watch, and it wasn't the best gift that you. I mean, what are you going to do with it? I mean, it just it did not matter. It did not matter.
I think to expand on that too, real quick, is just like, so what are we waiting on, or what are we scared of then? Like what is holding us back from being happy? And I'm kind of even asking at this point, because sometimes I get in my own way, and I think I keep coming back to that answer, and it's always myself. It's always me getting my own way.
I've got to go back on that. I need you to repeat that again, because that is too good to pass up. Say that again.
Yeah. So I've been trying to figure out, like, what is stopping us from really living, and whatever that means to somebody, or what is stopping us from being happy. And I keep finding the common denominator is me. I keep getting in my own way. And the moments that I have just let my walls down and just said, I'm just going to go, and whatever that means, wherever, however, whatever, have been the best experiences of my life, because I didn't have to regret not trying it again. And I find it's myself that prevents happiness more than anybody.
That's so good, man. I don't know. You're preaching to me tonight. You've got a message to share, and I'm hearing it. Tyler, go ahead and speak on that, my friend. I know that we've been talking about that, but
yeah. Well, what I was just going to chime in was, especially when it comes to the time part. I've got a quote that hangs in my office, and it's, "Stop complaining about only having 24 hours. You have the same amount of time as Da Vinci, Michelangelo, Socrates. Every person who's ever lived prior to you has 24 hours in that day." And it challenges me. It's, do not waste these 7 seconds in this span of an hour that you're just sitting here daydreaming, because that eventually adds up. And to speak to your point, as far as standing in your own way, some of the best times in my life were when I went ahead and said, I'm going to do this, period. I'm going to have a ball. I'm going to look like an idiot on the dance floor. People are going to laugh at me, and that's fine. I'm going to have a good time. So once I take away others' perceptions and I stop allowing them to determine whether or not I have worth, or whether or not I'm cool, or how I feel about myself, that's again some of the best times I've ever had in my life.
Mm-hmm. That goes back to what we were talking about too, is like, we're all going to die, and that's not scary. It's that, whenever I was in those hospital beds, man, I wasn't thinking about the things that I did. I was thinking about everything I never did.
Man, we need to write a book. We have to write this book, man. I mean, you're just popping it out. Man, I wish I could think of these lines. I'm glad that my brother Tyler here is taking, or our brother, I should say our brother in the great quest for wisdom and greatness is taking down some notes here, because let me have you say that again, my friend. And my brother too. Say that again, man.
Yeah. So when I was in the hospital, literally dying, it wasn't about the things that I had done already. It was about the things that I never got to do yet. It was about the things I never did. I was so upset about, and it was just, we're all like, I just don't want to ever be at the. I've joked about this with my friends, and they're like, oh man, I shouldn't go eat. Whatever. My friends are going to eat. I don't want to eat bad because I'm going to die. And I jokingly say this now because they know I was really sick. I say, you're not going to regret that on your deathbed. Like, and as simple as something like, I don't want to go spend time with my friends because I don't want to, spend an extra $20 or something. Like, what we're getting in our own way every single day. It doesn't mean go blow all your money because you have to live, but like, you have to pay bills, but like, like, what the freaking heck are we afraid of? I got lucky enough to have some crazy perspective.
Love it, man.
I got so lucky to be able to survive that and to gain this perspective. It's so worth it just to do things. They're not going to matter one day, and you're going to be sitting on your deathbed eventually, whether you're super old or you could be 30 years old like me, dying and wishing that I had more time. And all I wanted to do was all the things I never did. And it's worth it to just do. It doesn't have to be some profound, you don't have to skydive or solve, the world's problems. Just do. Text your friend that I do this thing. If someone pops up in my brain, I text them immediately and just say, hey, I was thinking about you. And it's worth it. It's just, you don't have to be the president or you don't have to be a world leader to matter. Like, everybody just do it. There's no reason not to. And I don't know how to make that sound any more cool than that, but we're all going to be dying one day wishing. Yes. And I never want to experience regret. Was the worst thing that I felt in that hospital. Regret was the heaviest weight because I'd spent time not living. I spent time worrying about people and things and who didn't like me and this and this and this. And recently there's been some people, I guess this is what happens when you start to get famous or something. People try to talk trash about you all the time. And I say that jokingly. Obviously I'm not famous, but like,
yeah, well, no, it does happen. I mean, if you start putting yourself out there with a message, somebody's going to take you down simply because they don't like, I don't know why it is. It's putrid reasons that probably better left unsaid. And I wonder if the great ones just don't even care. I mean, what does it matter that what they're talking about? I know what I'm saying. I mean, because I have this from God and I'm going to say this,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who are you? I mean, you're offering nothing, but just who hurl the cynic's ban. That's a line from a poem. Those trying to think, it might be in Teddy Roosevelt's speech about the man in the arena. Those cowardly, timid souls who sit along the sidelines, and who hurl that cynic's ban. I don't know that it's his, but it could fit. It's like that cynicism. Just they're trying to take you down because they're uncomfortable. They don't like themselves, and they've never dealt with life, and it's just whatever.
Yeah.
But you but you're saying in such a beautiful way, and they're probably jealous of that because they wish they would have that courage, and they're not. They're cowardly and they sit along the sidelines. You're courageously standing up and saying, what are you worried about, man? Come on. You're not going to be thinking about this on your deathbed.
Yeah.
This can't be a problem. I mean, this is not going to be even a thought.
Mhm.
You went ahead and spent $20. You took that individual out to lunch who you hadn't seen in a long time because they needed encouragement. You spent a few more dollars on a pair of binoculars so you could see some more stars. And then you gave that away to your friend because you knew that they needed it. Or, I don't know, just it's 1,000 different things you could do, but you said it better and best of all, that don't live with regret. It's that idea of carpe diem, which people, they bandy that about, but it has that wonderful feeling of seizing this moment because we'll never have another moment like this. I mean, that's the ticket. It's like an urgency to make the moment 60 seconds worth of distance run. That's the line I'm thinking of from the poem, Rudyard Kipling's poem, If you can fill the minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, right? If you can feel that unforgiving minute, that one that just keeps clicking it right off, and yet, you've got this chance to make a memory. And I know this sounds like a platitude, and this sounds like one of those things that you want to put up, make a memory, buy it Hobby Lobby, put it up with some flowers, make a memory, live in the moment, live, love, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Live, laugh, love, whatever they call it. People are talking about that, but you're feeling that. And that's the reason I'm feeling this beautiful, beautiful message that you have. And I think, I'm your guy to write that book with you, man. We need to get this message out there. So I can throw in a few philosophical quotes. I'll just we can co-author a book, why life matters, or something like that. I don't know how to even put it, but the reason I'm on about this is because the philosophers, and I don't mean to make this sound so academic, but it's what you get when you give deep thought to life. You come up with great ideas that will literally change the way that you live. And they've always pointed out about the brevity of life. I hear that over and over and over again. Embrace life, think about it, make the great decisions for your life, because that's all wisdom is, isn't it? It's not about knowing something. It's about applying it toward living a great life. That's wisdom. And that's what I would encourage anybody listening, when Alan is talking with all of us, all around the world included, whoever's listening, that you're talking to a real life philosopher here. That's the way I want to count you, man. You've just that's the way I want to see. That's the way I'm seeing that. You've not only took, it's astounding, but I'm going to say this with all respect. I mean, I know a bit about the subject, about philosophy and theology, but I think that in speaking with you and hearing your message and hearing the truths, that is igniting a philosophy and a theological view within me that recaptures a sense of life, grabs on. And I love that. And, when Plato writes about Socrates on the day that he dies, and he said philosophers are always preparing to die. Well, they always took that in the negative, like they're these droll characters. And that isn't the case at all. It is the silliest thing to say that. I mean, you're just way off the mark. You just don't even, you don't know what you're talking about. But if you take it in what you're saying, right, it's a remembering that of life and cherish it. It's like hold on to it. So you're always preparing for that day that you will finally go out, not with a whimper, but with a bang. Like, yeah, this was good. No regrets, man. No regrets. Loved it. And which is more, and that's what Socrates kind of like what Plato lobs to us and throws over to us is you need to be like this. So at the day that you pass away, you've lived it well. Yeah, that is, it's just like, I have to repeat Tecumseh again. I've repeated him before, I think a couple months ago. He said, when it comes time for you to pass away, when it comes time for you to die, you won't be like these timid souls running away from it. You won't be like a bunch of cowards. You will be like heroes going home. Isn't that beautiful?
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Man.
Yeah.
If I don't hear an amen soon.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm taking it in. I'm taking it in for sure.
Yeah. And I'm not trying to teach you, my brother, because you're teaching me so much by that. And so I want to thank you for giving that message. I mean, we could keep on talking about this, but I don't want to just keep on laboring this point. Tyler, let me ask you, do you have any thoughts that you might add? And I'm going to ask Alan to kind of close us off in some great thinking here, because this is almost too rich. It's like having such a wonderful meal and like not wanting it to end, but knowing that you got it. It's so good. If I eat any more, it's just going to, it's going to like kind of, I want to pull away from that table. I want to say, wow, this has been so fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of great points, and it's just very inspirational to make sure that at each and every moment you are seizing the day, as they say, and as you said earlier, Dr. Newman, and just the idea that to go out and work towards attaining things that you're interested in, not just chasing, material pleasures, and don't be like you said earlier, Alan, not chasing stuff and just other things from people, but to work to attain, pleasure and leadership and beauty, instead of just trying to get enough money to buy it off a shelf somewhere. And so I just think that was wonderful.
Before I turn it over to you, Alan, on that one last comment, I was thinking, as Tyler was saying, it seems like don't go after the thing, but the experience of life. It's like, I mean, not to get back into it, but when you were talking about that person that left you, I mean, I don't mean to say that, but the person is just this, I don't want to say it, we're things. I don't want to say that, but it's just that. It's one. It's not the experience. They've chosen to go elsewhere. You don't have any experience, even if you could pull them back and set them right beside you. They chose to leave you, so they're not having a good time. They're going to ruin your experience. So get rid of that and say, bring it on, man. I'm alive. And Alan, please, I don't know how else to say it, but just offer something for the world that, because I love this thing about technology today. We can offer something to the world, and I love that. Could you just maybe give one thought or something just to kind of close us off with? I want to ask you.
Yeah. So my therapist, Dr. David Clay, great man, been going to him since 2017. Thankful for that person.
Bless him.
And he showed me something, or he gave me an idea that has really, really helped me fly. And the reason I say fly is because he told me about, I was explaining to him about how people have a lot of bad things to say about me for some reason, and it doesn't really make sense. And it was starting to affect the way I thought about myself even. So he said that he saw a bird the other day, that it was like a hawk or an eagle, like a big bird. And it was in the city of Huntington, and it was up on a power line. It was raining, and it wasn't, it even got down on the sidewalk and was just looked really, really out of place. And the reason that bird looked out of place is because it wasn't where it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be in the sky. It was supposed to be going. It wasn't supposed to be in the mud with the pigs and the critters and the junk. It was out of place. So I think that if there's anything holding you back, or if there's anything like that you're feeling is unbalanced in your life, it might be because you're out of place. If you're an eagle, you're not supposed to be, in the fields with the again, like in the pigsty. That's not where the eagles fly. They're so out of place in that. So I have started to find things that with those people that are saying things about me, I can't lower myself to go down there anymore.
There you go.
I'm meant to be way up here. And likewise,
Sure.
They're meant to be where they're supposed to be, whether that's in the big mud or up in the wherever. And that doesn't mean, again, that's not like an arrogant thing. It's just, that's not where I belong. And that's something I've really been absorbing a lot, is don't go there because you don't belong there.
That's thinking like a hero, my friend. I'm just going to encourage you. That's thinking like a hero. That's thinking like a champion. That's thinking like the philosopher that you are. I take great pride in that, in saying that. I mean, that is spot on. That's the hero. And you're a hero. And I applaud you from my heart for what you've had to say and share. And I humbly thank you for coming on with this podcast. I mean, this effort to offer something filled with wonder, filled with wisdom, filled with the sense of the wild. Back to the story of the hawk. He belongs up in that wild, free, beautiful sky, not down in that cesspool wherever he was. Yeah. Thank you for that today, my friend.
Thank you all.
Thank you for this time, man. Thank you. I really appreciate you, my friend. We'll call it a time. And so I want to tell everybody it's been a pleasure, and it's been wonderful on the Darren Newman Dialogues. I'll see you next time.